Nigeria is to raise a $3 billion Euro bond in October 2021. OPEC sees Delta variant weighing on oil demands before 2022 growth. Asia Pacific shares mixed this morning as Evergrande shares tumble almost 10%. And on Business Express today, we shall be taking a look at taxation and economic recovery, the role of industry players. The program is Business Express, and we are reaching you live from Abuja, the nation's capital. My name is Liakatun Babatunde. You're welcome. President Muhammadu Buhari says Nigeria remains committed to global efforts at protecting biodiversity and mitigating climate change. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, delivered the President's address at the opening of UNESCO's Man and Biosphere International Coordinating Conference in Abuja.
I made a pledge at the 74th session of the United Nations General Assembly that Nigeria will plant 25 million trees nationwide. This pledge has seen Nigeria raising and planting close to 80% of the total number across the country.
Meanwhile, the World Bank says 86 million people could become climate migrants in Nigeria and other sub-Saharan countries by the year 2050. The World Bank added that 216 million people could be compelled to become climate migrants globally. The bank, in a statement this Monday titled "Climate Change Could Force 216 Million People to Migrate Within Their Own Countries by 2050, released that statement. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning Zainab Ahmed says the nation plans to raise about $3 billion in the Eurobond market in the second week of October. The minister, who stated this, said the country is working on increasing revenue, restructuring the debt portfolio and also borrowing less, while making reference to approval for the budget is $6 billion. The minister noted that government is looking at doing half of that in the Eurobond market and the other half in multilateral and bilateral resources. She also stressed that Nigeria's GDP is at 23%, which is healthy. Now moving to the currency market, the dollar holds tight range as investors await U.S. inflation data. Let's now see how the naira is exchanging for the currencies. The West African Tax Administrators Forum is paying attention this year on the issues around taxation of the digital economy. This is coming even as part of the effects of the coronavirus pandemic has continued to affect growth in the digital space. So how are countries, particularly in Africa, harnessing these potentials and, of course, drawing the right benefits for economic development? And now being joined by Mr. Babatunde Oladapo, the Executive Secretary of the West African Tax Administrators Forum. You're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you.
And I also have with me Muhammad Lawal Abubakar. He's the Coordinating Director, Executive Chairman's Office, the group at the FRS. You're welcome to Business Express.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And together we shall be looking at the recovery journey and taxation. So perhaps I begin with you, Mr. Babatunde, if you could let us gain some understanding why and how the digital economy should be taxed, considering, of course, the issues around the globe presently, the prevailing issues.
Okay, thank you. It's good to be back here again. Talking about the need for focusing on digital economy, as we're all aware that the world businesses are transiting more from the brick and mortar businesses. COVID-19, that's the experience we saw. Although we have the traditional digital marketing companies, organization operating on the digital level, but there is a kind of increase in digital transaction. And then coupled with the fact that COVID-19 depleted some effort at raising revenue sustainably. And so it's important for us to rethink and look at which areas are we going to focus on, where are the issues, what are the issues that we've left undone. Because the digital economy has been there for a while, and Africa, according to global estimate, globally over $100 billion is lost to diverse jurisdictions, and Africa is a major loser in this regard, because most of those multinational enterprises are not from Africa. They are out of Africa. They provide services which are online and which are not usually taxed, because there are plannings here, tax planning here and there, which is majorly meant to retain the profits. So now it's for Africa to look at how do we tap into these potentials. We've been thinking about extractive revenue from extractive industry, oil and gas. Where are the new frontiers? So that's why what I've decided, let's look at what is happening globally. Let's see how we can tap into this. At the OECD level, that's the Organization of Economic Community, countries made up majorly by the group G20, European countries, African countries are part of the conversation. Around 2015, there was a project on base erosion and profit shifting. One of the action there is Action 1, and that's taxation of the digital economy. So it's time for us to localize the effort. It's time for West Africa, among our African colleagues, to be able to say, this is our whole story. Where do we go from here? So WATAP this year is focusing in that direction, to bring members together, share experiences, and look ahead in terms of what others have done and where we can possibly do in this part of the continent.
Okay, let me bring in Mr. Mohammed now. Could you speak to us? What are the particular changes in the digital space that you, as a tax player, has noticed, and of course, how this will be affecting the revenue drive of the Nigerian authorities?
Thank you very much. As earlier said by my colleague, you notice that currently huge financial transactions are going on electronically using the online platforms. You can only imagine how much of such transaction in volumes of, in terms of amounts. Most of these transactions are also liable to tax. So how much of it are we able to bring into tax net? what will help us in this regard is to key into this platform to be able to have data. And that takes us to what we are doing at FRS. We have designed a device that will enable us tap into this platform through data mining, data intelligence, and data analytics. So what that will help us do is not only to get to the number of people carrying on transaction on this platform, but it will also help us block leakages. And in that way, we'll be able to increase our tax revenue generation. There is a deliberate action by the Ministry of Finance and FRS to close gaps. And as I said, block leakages, expand the tax base. Currently, our population usually is said to be at 200 million. What percentage of that population is in the tax net is what will be of interest to us.
Okay,
yes.
I want to ask you this quickly.
Yes.
In terms of awareness, how aware do you think Nigerians are of this new initiative?
Yes, we interact with stakeholders and then the general public. But at this stage, we are engaging with professional bodies and tax practitioners, so that in that way they are able to guide taxpayers on their responsibility to and tax obligation to carry out what is expected of them. By and large, we know very well that we have challenges in terms of even knowing where taxpayers are. Yes, as I said, it's always said that we have huge number of persons, but we also need to check the viability in terms of the economic viability of this population and be able to bring in those that will be liable to tax in one way or the other.
Okay, so Mr. Papatunde, if you can tell us this, just how much do you see Africa and Nigeria making in terms of taxing the digital economy adequately?
Yeah, I will not be able to say the exact figures, but if you're looking at globally what is being lost, it runs in hundreds of millions of euro. So if Africa is having a fair share of it, it will look at running into a couple of millions of euro, because we have big economics like Nigeria, South Africa, and these are potentials. Right now, you may not be able to say exactly this is one, because they are estimates. And like my senior colleague from the FRS, he thrives on data. The more you dig into the data, the more reality comes. So for me, digital economy is the new gold mine. Because with the click of a computer, I could render a professional service from London to someone in London. If the tax administration is not aware, that money leaves. And there are several people doing things on Facebook. I tell you, on Netflix it's not Nigerian. It doesn't have any physical structure. I doubt if it has. But people subscribe to Netflix. So how do we get our own fair share? Previously, the taxing rule over 100 years internationally has been there 100 years, protecting other jurisdictions, leaving Africa behind.
Exactly.
So now it's now for us to look at, let's look at, we are consuming. In Nigeria, Facebook is very popular. Harvard, there, when you view something, someone has an income. What does Nigeria gain from it?
Is there a West African approach to these issues, like the ECOWAS bloc? Is there an approach to that? Yeah,
it's a building block. We started it. That's why we're having this high-level policy dialogue. WATAF has a strong relationship with ECOWAS, bearing in mind that as tax administrations, there's nothing you can do without the political support We are employees of government, and ECOWAS represent the aggregate of that political will. So we are closely working with ECOWAS to ensure that whatever we do gets to the Council of Ministers of Finance, then it gets to the heads of government, so that we can build up that solid support. At the high-level policy dialogue, the ECOWAS president is expected. There are people within the system who will also be there. So that we will build the consensus on where we go. Then globally, we have West African countries being part of the inclusive framework. And for the first time, the inclusive framework is a derivative of the BEPS project, which is base erosion and profit shifting, which is has now gone into inclusive framework. We have 140 countries signed on, and in August there was a pronouncement on where should we go in taxing the digital economy. There were 2 action plans. One talking about minimum tax, and then allocating taxing right. Because in taxation, you need to look at who tax who. And the principle are usually, where do you consume the service, who produces the service. And that comes to play in the taxation of the digital economy. And for the first time, I'm so proud of what happened. Nigeria and Kenya refused to sign that. I was so thrilled, because there are issues. If we are saying the minimum tax, the threshold is too high. So it means if you are putting $100 million company with that profit, it means what happens to the smaller ones? That means they go on tax. So it means it takes us back. So that's the kind of voice we are getting globally. And we hope before October, because there will be a conversation in October, we hope we'll be able to aggregate our position so that we can say, yes, we consume so much, we need to have a fair share of what goes into this as countries and members of ECOWAS.
Okay. Now, before I wrap up this discussion, there is a very, very high presence of Nigeria in the digital economy space, in the IT space. Should we be expecting a sort of tweak in policies to reflect this reality?
Yes, and that's what Nigeria and even the countries in the sub-African and West African sub-region are after. Like the conference that is coming up, the WATAF conference coming up between 19th and 23rd of this month. 15 countries from within the sub-region will be discussing digital economy and exploring other untapped revenue sources. So we will see ourselves exchanging experiences, sharing information, and exchange of information is very, very vital in taxation. You could have your national, resident in other countries, and you check where they are liable to in terms of tax. You will see some of them who just go carry out business there and come back. We may not have information about them. So it is through this platform that we're able to exchange information and get such people into our tax net. And likewise, Nigeria will also be there to give us such information about nationals of other countries. So the WATAF is a platform that provides opportunity for tax authorities within these 15 member countries to exchange ideas and also explore, especially the digital platform where most of these transactions take place, and how we can gainfully key in to be able to tax adequately.
Okay, I must sincerely thank you, Mr. Mohammed Abubakar, for coming on Business Express this morning. Mr. Abubakar is the Coordinating Director, Executive Chairman's Office Group at the FRS. I would also like to thank Mr. Abatunde Oladapo, the ES of WATAF, who is always ready to come and share some thoughts with us. Thank you for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now moving on, micro, small and medium enterprises have no doubt been affected by COVID-19, and it's no surprise that fresh juice makers are reporting decrease in sales. Moplang Dakok reports on how a fresh juice maker is surviving COVID-19.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Pressed fruit juices have become popular in Nigeria, but the smoothie and fresh juice makers, like other micro businesses, have also decried low patronage since COVID-19 broke out. Blessing Ogana is one of the juice makers who spoke to NTA Business Express on how the COVID-19 pandemic affected the business.
It's not been easy. We'll be struggling now. It's better than staying at home. We've been coming, but just that we don't save like before. And the expenses is too much. If you go to the market in the morning, in the evening, the price has changed. So we are just struggling to fix something.
Blessing says she is interested in the central bank's stimulus program for micro, small and medium-sized enterprises affected by the pandemic, offered through the NISA Microfinance Bank, but doesn't know how to go about it.
I'm afraid of loan. In my life, I've not collected loan, no. But this time around, I need it. I've been seeing people talking about it, but I've not seen a convenience person as in to direct me. You understand? Even in the radio, they used to advertise it.
Despite the challenges Blessing has faced, she is seeing glimpses of hope as she urges other young women to be hardworking and resilient.
If you have something to do small, please don't sit at home. To just be doing something. To bring, even if it's 500 naira you save a day, in a month 15,000 naira. You understand? If you did not save, or anyone you see around you, just continue doing it. One day, God will make you a better person.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Now, gold eases as investors are U.S. inflation data. Let's now take a trip to the commodities market. And the Nigerian equities market began the week on a slow start, recording a marginal decline of 0.02%. Outside Nigeria, Asia Pacific shares are mixed as Evergrande shares tumble almost 10%. This is following property sale drop warning.
Which could inform the Federal Reserve's timing for tapering its monetary stimulus. Britain's FTSE is seen around 4 points higher at 7,072. Germany's DAX is expected to add 34 points to 15,735, and France's CAC 40 is set to climb 10 points to 6,687. U.S. Consumer Price Index readings for August are due at 1:30 p.m. London time and are expected to show inflation stateside continuing to run hot. The latest print comes after U.S. producer price leaped 8.3% on an annual basis in August, the largest yearly increase since records began in November 2010. Shares in Asia Pacific were muted in Tuesday trade as investors looked ahead to the release of U.S. consumer inflation data for August. The broader Hang Seng Index in Hong Kong sat fractionally lower. Mainland Chinese stocks were mixed, with the Shanghai Composite dipping 1.43%, while the Nikkei rose 0.73%. In Africa, while some markets are yet to post new figures, Namibia's overall index resumed positive, while South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40 could not sustain Monday's gain in early trading. Boss Ede Able, Business Express.
Thank you, Boss Ade. And of course, this is where we end this edition of Business Express. We value your feedback, so keep the comments, observations, and suggestions coming. Be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. Business Express returns Wednesday at 3 p.m. I'm Leah Katumbaba Tunde saying, keep thinking and doing business. God bless Nigeria.